Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome back to the Aloha Perspective. I am back. I'm going to pull some cards, and then we'll get to where I've been and all the good stuff. So I actually have 2 pages of stuff today because, I wasn't here for 2 days. I wasn't doing this for 2 days. So I do have Tuesday thoughts and Self-Care Wednesday to cover, and it's perfect because there'll be things for you to think on Thursday. But this one, when I was pulling out the Aloha deck, this one came out. Good morning, T. I trust my inner voice. So, if you're struggling and you don't know the answer, trust your inner voice because it will lead you. Like I said, I'll get into where I've been the last couple of days when we get rolling into the actual topic, because good morning, baby sibling. Good morning, Eileen. I think it's actually beneficial. I believe everything happens for a reason. Good morning, older sibling. I believe everything happens for a reason, and what I went through the last 2 days is really kind of going to be covered in that. So anyways, let's see if anything wants to come out on this. It doesn't. Whoop. Okay. Spoke too soon. All right. Whoop. Holy cow. They're just, wow. All right. Well, let's see. Is there any more? Nope. Well, it's quite a bit. So let's roll through. We'll just go with what feels right and then the rest, right? I know I have like 2 piles. I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to pick. So, all right. I got a quick note. So the toucan, remember the toucan. If you are having trouble with public speaking, it is time to step out of the shadows and be seen and let yourself shine. Oh, that's interesting, because yesterday I was talking to baby sibling on the phone, and I found a quote online that says, there is no shame in shining. So it's time to step out of the shadows and be seen. Let yourself shine, okay? If you have stage fright, call on the toucan totem to help you out. Also, communication, showy, showmanship need to be seen, good fortune or good luck. So you might also have good luck. The coconut tree. The coconut tree as a symbol of, there's my writing again. The coconut tree is a symbol of being at peace. It is also a symbol of perseverance, as it can hold its own in stormy weather. When life is hard, stand your ground and weather the storm. So far, these 2 cards are really, really hitting on stuff that I've been through the last few days. The pineapple, that which is within matters. Beauty starts on the inside. Beauty does start on the inside. When you really get to know somebody, they seem to change, right? Like, I don't know. We can go all day on that, but I have a lot I want to talk about. But just remember, that which is within matters. It's actually tattooed onto me. Mai iloko mai in Hawaiian means that which is within matters. I figure if I'm getting a pineapple on my arm, I'm going to make it mean something. So it's mai iloko mai ho'omau, which is that which is within matters, and can't see it because I can't stretch that much. Oh wait, that way. Ho'omau is perseverance. So, and it's just like the pineapple, right? That's why I made it for that, because you look at the pineapple, I mean, it's not a bad looking fruit. It does have its own crown, but you're kind of like, it's not as colorful as some fruits. It's not as, it's an interesting shape, but when you go inside, right? So home is where the Wi-Fi connects automatically. Home isn't a destination. It's a place that exists in your heart if you allow it to be. All right. Coffee. Older sibling offered to make me coffee. I said no. I'm regretting that now. But crawl out from under your damn rock and go be with people. Socialize, live, be one with the world. Be one with the world. Positive changes are coming, change in feelings and transformation. Thank you, God. Whew, could use that. Love. That says it all, right? Love one another, all right? Let's see. Be rad. Just be rad. Too rad to be sad. I wish I'd read this the other day. Too rad to be sad. What other people think of you is not your business. Be your rad self. All right. The Monstera leaf. Honor, respect, and longevity. Honor, respect, and longevity. Family history. I'm going to go into this more, so I'm going to put this one aside for a second. The wall of waves, right? The wall of waves. I'm going to put that one aside too. Good vibes, deep breaths, relax. It is going to be okay. Maybe I should pull these cards for myself when I hit bottom, right? Deep breaths. It is going to be okay. The pumpkin. Gratitude, generosity, harvest, abundance, potential, creativity, autumn, fertility, love, wealth, and good luck. Carve out the path of your life's journey. It will be okay. No fear. Oh, no fear. Yeah, there's another one. That's another thing I had to deal with. The hibiscus. In Hawaii, the hibiscus often represents youth. Youth is happy because it has the capacity to see beauty. Anyone who keeps this ability to see beauty never grows old. Franz Kafka. That is the perfect, even if you don't see beauty in the mirror, right? Or see youth in the mirror. If you're not seeing your youth in the mirror, no matter how old you are, you need to take a step back and start thinking of what you need to weed out that's holding you back, that's holding you down, that is anchoring you into your spot. Because every day that you take a breath is a beautiful day. Okay? Even when you hit rock bottom and you keep digging, it's a beautiful day because you're breathing. And you know that if you can make it through the day, there's another day coming. All right? So, remember that. All right? And the chill, cool pineapple. It says pineapple, be cool. Be a pineapple, stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside. And that is unknown. I have no idea who wrote that, but I found it online when I Googled pineapple quotes. So there you have it. So last weekend, a friend of mine sent me a post from a Facebook site called the Holistic Psychologist. I love it, the Holistic Psychologist. One thing I never shared about my therapist is my therapist actually had crystals and whatnot in her room. And, I think they were just there for her and her decoration. But I told her, I said, oh my God, I know I've totally picked the right person because, I love crystals and they really kind of put me at ease and make me feel good. For people that don't believe in those things, they're pretty. Okay, they're pretty. Last night I went to stand out under the full moon in the middle of watching a heartbreaking loss to Canada on women's team or Team USA hockey. But I went outside after the first intermission and I came back in and siblings, oh, what happened? And they said, oh, the sun or the moon is still hiding behind the tree. So the next time I came out, I'm like, I want it to just shine on me. And I know a lot of people are going to think this is hokey and maybe it's a little too metaphysical laned for some people. But you really can feel the pull of the moon when you're standing outside, whether it's hiding behind a tree or not. Okay, so if it's hiding behind a cloud, don't worry, you can still feel it. But you can feel it. And I think, especially if you're a woman, since a lot of our cycles are kind of guided by the moon. But as humans, we're made up of so much water. And if you pay attention in science, the moon's pull and where it's at can actually affect the tides. Everything in this universe works together. Everything is, it comes together as a whole. The sun gives us warmth. So why can't the moon do things, right? But we don't think that far. We just think, oh, sun, oh, moon. I felt it last night. Now, in stepping into my metaphysical lane, the full moon is a time of release. Okay, because the new moon, just to go back a few weeks, the new moon is where you put in your intentions, your prayers, your manifestations, and it's growing to the full moon, right? So it's out there being worked on. Now, the full moon, the reason it's the time of release is because the full moon will be waning. Okay, the new moon waxes into the full moon, and the full moon wanes, means it starts to disappear into the new moon. So it's a time of letting go. It's a time of release. It's a time of just poofing everything out there. And I have to tell you, the last couple of full moons have not been for the faint of heart in my life. I have mentioned a bazillion times over the last few months about all the shadow work I have been doing. And every time I think I get to the root of something, poof, here comes something new. Okay, and then I think, God, seriously? Another thing? But then I realized the other day, and I'm actually glad I talked to baby sibling because I ended up reading what I wrote yesterday morning, or the day before, I can't remember which. But the last 2 days I have been off because if I'm going to do this show, even if I'm not at full mental capacity, I need to be at least at 65, 75% of feeling okay. Otherwise, I'm pretty much just wasting your time. I've tried it before so people can see what mental health looks like, so you can see what the struggle. But it really is a struggle. I tend to go over the same things and repeat myself, and it just kind of really turns more into not a fun ramble. I mean, I'm a random rambler, okay? But it turns into just confusion. And then it just, I don't even know how to finish it off sometimes. So I feel like I'm in a shadow work hangover, all right? My mental health is finally back on track. And it's been this way since last Wednesday when I did that disassociation with sex talk on self-care, Self-Care Wednesday. I had a lot come up. I had a lot of shadow work come up. I had a lot of things come up that didn't even have to do with that. And I realized that this particular root that I was working on my own particular tree of life, was fear. And so when I was journaling the other day, I was thinking, wow, it's like, how many of these things have I been on? But going back to what I was just mentioning about the tree of life, my own tree of life, my own personal one, I reminded myself that I kept thinking, am I failing? Because it's like root after root after root after root. But then I realized when you look at a tree, there's not just one root. Okay, it's one tree, but it has a lot of different roots coming out in different areas, right? Otherwise, the tree would probably fall over. It's rooting itself in the ground. Like, if you want to pull it up and think of it as like tentacles, right? Tentacles just reaching into different areas. It's really about where your roots are and healing them. You can heal a tree. When a tree looks like it's dying or the roots are going crazy, a lot of times that tree is just saying, hey, I need to be loved. Okay, I need someone to take care of me, to help me just kind of help me with these ends because they're going wild. And so one of the things I rediscovered yesterday is that these were the roots of my tree that I needed to fix in order for me to grow more, in order for me to just move forward from all this stuff. I mean, to be honest with you, there have been feelings that I've had over the last 6 months of doing shadow work. I will tell you before, first and foremost, and I'll try to remember to tell you after, shadow work is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the faint of heart. However, if you have been through bad things in your life, it is the number one thing I highly suggest. Is it scary? Yes. Does it make you feel like you were going to just fall down and want to bury yourself under a blanket for forever? It might. Everybody's different. I don't know what other people feel like when they do shadow work. Good morning, Ladina. However, I know that there are common threads that each person shares. I've seen other people share about their shadow work. The way I look at shadow work, and one of the reasons why I say that if it becomes too much for you, seek professional help or seek out friends who have done this and who understand it. I had a friend reach out to me yesterday who said, I wish I'd known you were going through this. I would have kept a better eye on you. And my siblings knew, older sibling and baby sibling knew. But the thing was, it wasn't my first rodeo. And so when I told them that, I said, look, I've been through this quite a bit. They're like, okay, well, I feel a little better and know you're going to be okay. The very first time I did it, I spiraled. I spiraled so hard. I wasn't sure I ever wanted to do it again. And that was when I first started discovering self-love. Real, not just talking about it. Okay. I've talked about it for a long time. I've talked about it for almost 2 years, even just on this show, but I never embraced it. I never gave it the chance it needed because it was like, well, I'm just helping people, but it's kind of like, well, I'm helping them. Don't worry about me. No, this was also for me. I mean, it's like these cards that were coming out today. I went through the wall of waves. I pulled up that last anchor. I got validation from several different people yesterday that this was the end of my shadow work journey. And to be honest with you, it is a little scary because, and I don't like to sit so much in my trauma, but this is what trauma does. It leads to bad decisions. It leads to different things happening in your life, and it leads to you questioning who you are, whether or not you belong on this planet, and where you're meant to go. And sometimes when you have a secret that you've kept so long, or you learn secrets that you have to keep, you live in this state of fear because, I grew up in a state of fear, not because of my parents. My parents were like a nice safe haven, and I talk about that. My mom and I had a very complicated relationship, but I could always count on her to be there. It's just there. We had a very complicated relationship when I was growing up. There's just a lot of things that went on that I didn't know about, not with my parents, but just in my mom's own life. And, she did the best she could. And I see that now. And I see her, and, whatever it was that she's never told me, and whatever secrets, I feel like there was something there that I never knew. And I still don't know. However, I realized that with myself, if I put myself in her shoes, if I had a child, how would I be as a parent if I hadn't healed anything? And it's just little things that she said to me throughout her life that just kind of never added up. And, but she was strong. And so whatever happened to her in her life before she met my dad, you roll with it. You roll with it. And my mom also grew up in a time where you don't talk about stuff. I know mental health problems ran in her family, so maybe she forgot that she told me that she had an uncle who took his own life. And maybe she was trying to hide that from me because, she was worried about my mental health. And if that's the case, I understand. She just wanted to protect me. Okay, but sometimes we can project and we can transfer. And that's one thing I don't want to do anymore. And so I had to fix this. Because if I didn't fix this, how can I be the complete version of me? So when it comes to shadow work, the most important part that I've learned from all this isn't just about, pulling up my last anchor, which is the last root, right? Or it's about the family history. I've broken a cycle. And there's a lot of things I can and can't talk about when it comes to that have nothing to do with me, but I've broken a cycle, and I am grateful for the parents I had. But I've broken that cycle of fear. I've broken this cycle of not wanting to talk about things that should be talked about. I'm breaking the cycle of stigma. Because I am very open about my mental health. I am very open about the fact that the last 2 days I could barely function and stayed in my pajamas except when I showered. I'm lucky I could do that. I forgot to brush my teeth yesterday morning. So I'm saying it's like I go to brush my teeth last night and it's like, oh, I forgot to brush my teeth in the morning. Good job. Because it wasn't the priority. The priority was me trying to pull myself up and trying to feel better and not be so invisible. On Wednesday or Tuesday, I just wanted to be invisible. And it's hard to fathom for me because Monday was such a good day. I mean, the first thing one person asked me was, is it because of, is it you or was it because of Valentine's? Like, no. I know it's like the first time I was actually okay being single on Valentine's. I mean, I had a great perspective, in my opinion. I didn't do a lot that day, but I really enjoyed the day, and I finished it off with like a little rom-com movie, and then I went to bed happy. But then when I was starting to go to bed, everything started to hit me again. And what had happened was, yes, I had a good day, but I was still in the middle of my shadow work. The shadow work that was really kind of prompted from last Wednesday's self-care talk. And I knew I had to finish it. And I think I was ignoring it. I was even telling baby sibling yesterday that when I would journal, I wrote about 4 or 5 pages on Monday night or Tuesday morning. I'll be honest with you, these last 72 hours or 48 hours at least have really kind of run together, And the last 2 days just are, I can't remember which memory goes to which day because they really did just kind of. But towards the end of last night, I started to see the light. Some of the comments I was reading about some stuff that I had posted, talking to baby sibling, talking to older sibling. I started to realize that I cannot be afraid of being done with the shadow work journey. The whole point of doing the shadow work is probably, I can't say for sure that it's going to. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm just me sharing my experience. But from somebody else I've spoken to, it broke me. It broke me so hard. And it broke me harder than every other shadow journey I had been on. Because I think I knew this was it. And when I got that validation that this was it, it was kind of like, wow, now what? And sometimes the now what can be the scariest part, right? But that's when we just go with the flow. Do what feels right. Trust your inner voice. That's when you have to trust that inner voice. Wait for the light bulb to come off. If a light bulb goes off, boom, you know where you're supposed to be, right? And maybe it's just a stepping stone to somewhere else or to something else. But I looked back, and in my journaling, I noticed, and this is all in the Floof book. I mean, I'm almost actually done with this notebook, and I started it on, let's see. I started it on not even a month ago, just under a month ago. I've had several shadow work journeys. The first one was lack of self-love. That was the first root that I had to get to. The second root I had to get to was shame. The third root was guilt. Fourth, distrust. Fifth was anger and bitterness. And this last one was about fear. And like I said, even though I had wonderful parents, I always grew up in fear because I was afraid someone would find out my own secret. I was afraid somebody would, judge me for it or make me feel bad for it. And I knew that there were cycles I had to break. And it was mostly with the mental health stigma. One of the things that broke me last week was when I talked about the forgiveness my mom could never give me for a decision I had made. Just in case nobody saw it, I had an abortion when I was 22. There's a whole long story. I suggest you go back and watch last week's Self-Care Wednesday, but in a way I was convinced by my boyfriend at the time to do it, and I was so afraid of losing him. I did it. But I take full responsibility because I'm the one who makes the ultimate decision in that. However, like I said, I am for any woman doing whatever she chooses with her body. What you do with your body is not up to me, okay? Period. Across the board. But for me, even though I do support that, I never thought I would be in that situation. And there I was. And about a year later, I was still carrying that guilt. I was carrying that struggle. There was only about 2 or 3 people that knew what I had done. And I needed my mom's forgiveness, and she could not give it to me. She would not give it to me. Ever. That was the one thing when we had the talk to leave nothing unsaid that I could not bring up with her, and she did not bring up with me. And it left itself unforgiven. And I struggled with that last week. It broke me. And I think it's really, truly what sent me into this week-long spiral that I've been going through. And it's like a roller coaster, right? It starts out a little slow, and then whoosh, it's like a corkscrew of just spins and turns and feeling like you're just going to lose your lunch while you're on this ride. And even if it doesn't normally bother you, because it's like whiplash. You're just like, holy shit. And so, I had this fear, like, am I a bad person? My mom couldn't forgive me, and my mom was, very, very in tune with her religious side, very, very in tune with all sorts of things, but she couldn't forgive me for that. And then there was a lot of guilt that was added onto that, a lot of Catholic guilt. So, nothing against anybody who's religious. I promise you, you make your own choices. What I don't like personally is when people hide behind the Bible. Okay? Because I realized during this shadow work that God forgave me a long time ago. And I think he was just waiting for me to forgive myself. Whatever reasons my mom couldn't forgive me for, they're her reasons. But I can't tie myself and be accountable for that anymore. because it was something I did a long, long time ago, and it's something I had to let go. But not being forgiven by her, I kept that for years, for decades, because it hurt. Because, somebody I looked up to couldn't give me that. And like I said, whatever her reasons are, I don't want anyone to be upset with her. What I want is for people, to have those hard conversations with your child. If your child does something and you're kind of like, I'm talking about normal stuff, all right? I don't go into this whole, criminal thing, because I don't know how I would react in that. But in this particular situation, okay, I made a choice. And that was one of the things she said to me too. She told me, she's all, well, it was ultimately your choice. You didn't have to do it. You had options. And it's like, I know. But I literally made this decision. I knew exactly the day I got pregnant. I know it was weird. I could feel my body change. And from that day to the day that I had that procedure was 8 days, 7 or 8 days. Okay, 7 or 8 days. That's it. That's it. And it scarred me. And I think it also added to the fear that I had to get rid of. Am I always going to make bad decisions? Look where I'm at now. It's like everything I ever wanted, I never got. And it's okay. I'm at peace with all of that now, because I did the shadow work. And like I said, if you are choosing to do this and you are struggling, either find somebody who can support you and keep an eye on you, or work through it with a counselor, a therapist. They have a lot of online apps now for people. They have, there's all kinds of things across the board that can help people. If you are on a fixed income, there are people who work on a sliding scale. There are free clinics. Work with somebody who will listen. I will listen if you need me to listen. Okay, because I've been there now. Now I've been there and I've done it. And I'm coming out the other side. I'm coming out into the light. I've been in a dark tunnel for a very long time. Sometimes I would just stomp out my torch. Other times I'd light it up and keep going. But I did need to take time. And I think yesterday was more of taking a day to just reset. And so, that's one of the reasons that I couldn't do it. But what I'm going to talk about now is some of the things that can actually lead to shadow work. The one thing I will say that I'll finish off the shadow work talk about is, I know I make it sound like the most horrible thing on the planet. Like it's the most painful thing and terrible thing. And for some, it might be. For others, it just might be, there's my aha moment. If you were that person, good for you. Because a lot of people I know that go through this is not that easy. However, we only make it as hard as we make it. Okay? I know I forgot. See, this is what I mean, where I need to be at a higher capacity of feeling better. Otherwise, I just forget things. I literally left a thought hanging out there about when I was talking to a baby sibling and when I was journaling. One thing I noticed is that when I didn't want to deal with something, I'd put my pen down, I'd start to pick up my phone to play a game. And I caught myself doing this last time during the shadow work. I didn't realize it all the other times, but then when I thought back, I'm like, oh my God, I do this all the time. It's when I don't want to talk about something. And I write down the times, even if it's in the same day. Every time I step back into the floof journal, I will literally write the time down in between when I wrote the last thing or, to when I'm writing now. And there was one point where I started at 7:25 a.m., totally distracted myself for 35 minutes. Then I came back and I'm like, holy crap, this is exactly what I do. This is exactly what I do. Because I didn't want to deal with it. And so finally I did. And actually, I think it might have been yesterday. So it is exactly what I do. Because I didn't want to deal with it. And I knew it had to come up and out. So what I realized, the most important part of shadow work is that somehow you will just know when you're done. Look for the signs. Look for the validation. Some people may not have to do as much work as I had to. Some may have to do more. But I'm going to use this phrase because it's something that I came up with in my head that I wrote down, that Shadow work will break you, but it will give you the opportunity to piece yourself back together the way you were intended to be. That doesn't mean you're a bad person now. It does not. It doesn't necessarily mean new and improved either. What it means is it's showing you your strength. So I finally remembered, or I saw an article the other day, because remember how I was telling you that there's that Japanese form of art that I can never remember. It's called Kinsugi. Okay, Kinsugi is when something breaks and they piece it back together with like glue, but the glue has gold in it. And the gold it becomes this beautiful piece of art. And what it's meant to represent is to show you that nothing's perfect. Everything has cracks in it. You know, and they fill those cracks in with that gold to show you. And, you know, some artists now are just breaking things and putting things back together. But in tradition, in the old days, when something broke and it could be fixed, if the pieces were big enough and you had enough of the pieces, Kinsugi was used to join it back together. So it's just a fascinating process, and it's fascinating to think about, you know, all these scars that, if you really think about it, might just be shining and sparkling, because these are your scars through everything you've gone through. Okay, so let's see. From the Holistic Psychologist, a very good friend of mine sent this to me when I was going through my stuff. She kept checking on me and making sure that, hey, are you okay? And the body can go into 4 states when overwhelmed. Fight, flight, flee, and fawn. Fawn is people pleasing. Okay, so flight, fight, flee. All right. Yeah, it can make you feel like you're having an out-of-body experience. So 5 signs you've left your body. When someone begins speaking aggressively and you feel exhausted or zone out. So there have been times when when I get upset, I get loud, and I don't mean to. I don't know why. I'm working on that. I try not to. But in the very early days, when older sibling was helping me, before I understood the depth of the mental health help I needed, there would be times when I would lash out. Not at her necessarily, but just all this pain that was repressed in me just needed to come out. And unfortunately, it came out at her. Why do I share this? Because I think people need to know that you cannot be ashamed of these things that are going to happen. What you need to do is get help if this does happen. Or you need to not be afraid to admit that you may have a dinged up mental health. There are a lot of different diagnoses. Okay, you may just be like me, have the run-of-the-mill depression. But if you don't get it under control, that is going to keep happening. If you don't get your mental health under control, it can keep happening, and you're going to push people away. You're going to ruin relationships. You're going to wreck a lot of things. We talked about that last Thursday, you know, with a family member I have that has ruined a very important relationship in their life. You know, and it's probably one that may never ever get fixed. And that's the sad truth of it. And it's sad to think about it. And it's hard to think about that. Because the person that did walk away, they're still hurt by it. And there's just this part of them that wishes it was better. But it's not. And some people are afraid to put themselves back into that situation. Or some people just plain out don't want to deal with it anymore and will not put themselves back in that situation. Because they don't want to be let down again. Right? So I have noticed, though, going back to what I was talking about, this is why I share it, though, that older sibling will shut down. She'll zone out. Just like, I'm here, and I'm looking at you, and I might be nodding my head, but I'm not listening. So number 2, an interaction with someone where you feel numb or in a state of shock, so you do whatever you can to appease the person to make it stop. If somebody's losing their shit in front of you, the first thing you're going to do, and I would say, in a way, though, it's a terrible metaphor, but think about if you have a child, right? And your child will not stop crying, so you try to appease them in every sense of the word. Now, that's not the child's fault. You know, you guys are learning your communication. You're learning where you're standing with this kid. The kid is learning who you are. However, as adults, it's kind of the same thing. You're trying to appease somebody so they'll stop. That doesn't always work, because all you're doing is really, in my opinion only, it's kind of just making their behavior okay. But you're so afraid of what's going to happen, you don't have a choice. So it's a terrible catch-22. Number 3, sitting or vegging, scrolling for hours through social media, and you suddenly realize how much time has passed. That has happened to me when I've journaled. I'm pointing at my journal. Like I said, there have been times when there's so many gaps in between the times that I've written and started rewriting again, because it's flight. It's not fight or flight. It's just flight. Fighting is when I journal, because I'm fighting for my mental health. The flight part is just, I can't handle it. I don't want to deal with it. Now, sometimes I think it's just because I need a break, or I will break. But, you see red while in a fight because you're emotionally overwhelmed and unable to hear anything they are saying or even remember what you have said. Sissy and I had a lot of these fights. Sissy and I had a lot of different pains from our past that would come back to haunt us. And I think a lot of times she would pick the fight with me because she knew I would fight back. Because, I felt like I had to defend myself. Instead of being smart and just walking away, or just walking up to her and hugging her and doing what older sibling did to me and bottom lining and saying, what is really the root of your issue? Why are you so mad? I think I just fought back. And there were a lot of times when we would end up not talking to each other for a while, and I would tell her, well, I said this to you. Well, I don't remember that. So you have to understand, there's going to be a lot of times when people literally will not remember, because it's like a blind rage. Maybe not rage like you would think, like crazy rage, but it's like a blind anger that you're shooting out there everything under the sun, because all you're trying to do, it's like being, backed into a corner, right? And you're clawing your way out. I think that's how some people feel when they get that overwhelmed feeling and start seeing red while they're fighting with someone. And number 5, during sex, you start to feel emotionally flooded, and your mind starts racing. You're no longer comfortable, so you go through the motions, hoping it will be over soon. That was actually what last Self-Care Wednesday was about. Disassociation during sex. But it led into a lot of other things. So it was not just about that. It was about a lot of things. But that's where it started. And I think this is why they sent it to me, was because of number 5. So again, this is fight, flight, flee, and fawn. These are the 5 signs of these things. Okay. And so, if any of those things are bothering you, just take a peek into it. I will never stop saying this enough when we talk about some of these harder things in the perspective. If you need help, seek help. There is no shame in it. Like I said, there are always people who will work with you if you have a financial issue. There are people who will work with you over the phone. There are apps to do this online if you are a busy person. There's really no more room for excuses if you want to seek the help. If you don't, that's your choice. It's okay. You have to do what's best for you. And maybe one day you'll change your mind, or maybe one day you'll just think, I can handle it myself. And that's okay too. Nobody can force you into it. Okay, that's the one thing I want to say. I do not try to force anyone into it. I make heavy suggestions in the direction when I do the perspective, because I know it helped me. It helped me greatly. And yet still I struggle. I mean, there's going to be a point in my life where I know I'm going to end up back in therapy, just because there's a lot of new things that are coming at me. I'm feeling a lot of new emotions. I'm so unblocked right now that, I cry at commercials sometimes. And not because it's necessarily sad, but because I'm feeling these emotions for the first time. I suppressed them for so long, trying to control how I felt, trying to control every bit and aspect of my life, because I lived in fear of people knowing my secret. And after people knew my secret, after I've shared it, even on here, there was still that fear of being judged, of somebody looking down on me. Now, one thing I do want to cover is, I saw a tweet not that long ago from somebody in that part of the mental health community I follow. And they were upset that people say, I hate it when people, I'm paraphrasing right now because I don't remember the tweet exactly, but they're all, I hate it when people say, if you do the hard work, you're going to get better. I don't want to say do the hard work. I'm trying not to say doing the hard work anymore. I have done a lot of hard work. But I recognize that because the mental health umbrella is so vast and so big, with such a large amount of different diagnosis. It's, some people have multiple things in under the umbrella. I'm grateful that even though I have MDD, which is major depressive disorder, and disassociation. Apparently I have disassociation too, but I'm working on that, and that's part of the MDD. The disassociation is because of things that happened to me when I was younger, and you do try to disappear. You just want to be invisible. And that's what I'm working on now, is being very present in my life and trying to be present. But when you have the multiple diagnosis, it's hard, because you can work on one, and then, it's like, I can't think of exactly what it is. I can see it in my head, but this is what I mean. I'm not at full brain capacity. But it's like slippery stuff, right? You're trying to hold on to it and it keeps slipping out of your hands. That's what people with multiple diagnosis have. They get one thing under control and the other one slips out. It's hard for them to balance. And so I understand now how hard it can be for someone to hear doing the hard work. So if I do say it and it does offend you, please know that that's not my intention. I'm specifically talking about myself. Unless I am suggesting, that if you need help, seek therapy, it's okay, and the stigma, yada, yada, yada. I don't mean that like it's a bad thing. I mean just, what I just said. Everything I talk about is from my perspective. And what has worked for me, what has helped me. But what has helped me and what has worked for me doesn't necessarily work for everybody. It might work for a lot of people, but not for everybody. And it's just my perspective. It's me reaching out to people saying, hey, we need to end this so we can get the people the proper help they need. We can get the understanding out there to people that need to feel seen and understood, who don't want to be invisible. They may say they want to be invisible, but it's just because they don't want to bother somebody else with their problems. They don't want to bother somebody else with their pain. And a lot of times it's because we grow up and nobody pays attention. Nobody listens to what we're trying to tell them. So a lot of things go unchecked for so long that they get worse and worse and worse. So then you're kind of playing the catch-up game. You're playing this, I need to catch up on this because I feel so far behind everybody else. I'm going to put this out there right now. All right? I used to struggle with the fact that I am as old as I am, and I feel like there's so much more I could have done. I look at the people around me and I realize that one thing that hurts me the most is comparing my life to other people's lives. Other people may have their shit more together than I do, but nobody knows the journey it's taken me to get to where I am right now. And it may not be, all sparkly roses and unicorns and all those wonderful things, but to me it is. Because I'm finally getting my mental health back. I'm finally understanding it. I'm finally taking the time to learn who I am, and what my purpose could possibly be. I love doing this perspective because I know now, firsthand from comments and from other people, that it is helping people. And like I said, even if it's just one person that it touches, that's one person that can help somebody else. That's one person who's going to inspire somebody else. And it becomes a ripple effect. And that's my point. That's my goal. If we want to make this world a better place, sometimes we just have to start one person at a time. And sometimes that person is us. So I may have people who are a little bit younger than me that, that I see and I know, even in my own family, that are successful, that have, that are doing very well. But I'm not going to shame myself for being where I'm at now and how old I am. It doesn't matter how old I am, okay? I mean, people do things and start things at any age. We're learning that now. And I'm finally content with where I'm at. I'm working on being happy where I'm at. But being content is huge for me. It is major leaps and bounds for me to be where I'm at right now and to have the mental health that I'm finally gaining balance on, to be past all this shadow work, to have this weird kind of freedom that is kind of it. I'll be honest with you, it's scary. I'm not afraid of it. So I want to separate the fear from the scary, but it is a little scary. You know, think about how you watch all these ghosty shows, right? And I mean like the ones where they're ghost hunters. You know, they go into these places and sometimes they bring people who have never done this before. It's like their first time. They're kind of like, oh, you know, I don't know what to expect. But once they have that interaction, once they have gone through some of these things or walked through these dark houses, only being able to see through these little night vision cameras, right? It doesn't always make it easier because sometimes they go into some spooky ass places. It's like, no thanks. I'd steer clear from there because I don't need anything to attach to me. But, yes, I know I'm going a little in the other lane, but get over it. So, but as they continue to do these things, it becomes less and less scary. In fact, you kind of gain this situation where when you see something hurting somebody else, you're kind of like, hey, enough. All right. And you take charge because you've been there and you know it. If you are just starting out on your shadow work, just know I made it through. I made it through that wall of waves. And I'm floating now in the sea of bliss. I've been in the sea of bliss for a while, since probably the third thing on my tree of life root thing. But I had anchors that were still sitting in the sea of misery that were holding me back. So I couldn't just sail away and float aimlessly through this world. Which is kind of what I feel like I'm doing right now, just floating aimlessly through this world, trying to figure it out. And I really am trying to figure it out. The hard part about depression is there is a point where you're going to put yourself so far behind the 8 ball that you have to play catch up. And I have to play catch up on a lot of adult responsibilities that had not been taken care of. And those are things that I'm trying to find my balance on because I feel responsible for that. I feel like, you know, I've kind of not been carrying my own weight and not doing well because I haven't had the mental capacity to do so. I mean, yes, I think like an adult, I act like an adult, but I had hit so far bottom that when I kept digging so deep that I could barely see the light anymore. And sometimes I feel like it would just cave in on me and I couldn't see the light, period. It was like being in the Batcave, but not cool, like the Batcave. You know, just dark and scary and spooky with no super waterfall to go outside. Just like being in a black cave, just pitch black. And sometimes what I learned from the rom-com I watched the other day is sometimes you have to sit in the question to get the answer. Okay, sometimes you have to sit in the question to get the answer. And I did that on Tuesday and Wednesday. I sat in the question and I kept repeating that to myself. Sit in the question so you can get the answer. And I got the answer. And there were parts that I had to heal that I didn't realize I had to heal. One of them was that I did mention I had a very complicated relationship with my mom when I was growing up. And I had to work on that part. I had to heal that part. And what I choose now is just to remember the good things, the good times. Like I said, our good times outnumbered our bad times. And it wasn't bad like, you know, I mean, it wasn't, like I know some people might be going on the deep end going, what? Well, you know, no, my mom was a good mom. We just fought a lot when I was growing up. There was just, she really wanted to control everything I did because I think she was just so afraid for me. Plus, I had heart surgery when I was a kid. So I think she just felt like she just needed to protect me. So she over mama beared me. Overbearing. Oh, maybe that's where it comes from, right? Overbearing. But I don't think she meant that. And then one day we had this really doozy of a fight. And she finally just said to me, she's all, well, you know, I mean, right. I mean, we were like having that blind anger kind of fight, right? But the one thing I remembered, because I told her, I said, well, why are you like this? I was like almost 20 years old. It's like, why are you like this, Lola? And she just looked at me and she said, I don't care what you think in life, but she's all, there's one thing you need to remember. You are always going to be my baby. I'm always going to see you as my baby, and I'm always going to try to protect you because you're my baby. That's the only thing I can remember out of that fight. But I'll tell you, something clicked. And I thought, oh, I don't want to resist this anymore because she's just coming from a good place. But I had so much other things that had happened to me in my life that it was just, I think it's taken me this long to resolve it, because I didn't want to see that. After she said that, everything started getting better. And we had this really nice relationship until, she passed away. So we had a good, 20, 22, 23 year run of this relationship I always wanted with her. And yeah, the last 10 years were probably the best we had. But it got better because she was finally honest with me. But I think there were parts that I think there were parts in me that just wanted that when I was a kid too. Instead of always trying to resist her protection and just, fight with her. But, like I said, I had a lot of things going on in my life as well. And they were the traumas that I had that nobody knew about until I finally shared them. Or when they finally fell out during high school, during career and family studies, and I broke down crying. But I never shared the entire thing that ever happened to me with my mom. She never knew. She just thought it was, anyways, that's this conversation for another day. I'm just kind of rambling. See, this is what I mean about rambling. But I want to finish this up because I know we're running a little long here. But the one thing I wanted to share about Self-Care Wednesday was that I wanted to reach back to last Wednesday and talk about letting go and moving forward. Okay, that's how we're going to end this. It's about letting go of control. One thing I wrote down was no one is ever really in control because life is constantly changing. I finally understand that. When you try to chokehold your life, you are squeezing the life out of your life. You're taking the joy out of it. You're taking the fun out of it. If we live continually in the past and we don't see or refuse to see or don't realize that we refuse to see how far we've come, you're stealing the joy from your present moment. Now, again, that's my perspective, and it's kind of just coming out of my mouth now, so it might be something that I need to realize for myself, that when you focus on all the bad things, you're stealing the joy from your present moment. So, but again, letting go of control. No one is ever really in control because life is constantly changing. It is constantly changing. Shame and guilt. CSA or abuse, childhood sexual abuse or abuse in any form, it's not your fault. So you have to learn to trust yourself first. Okay? I held shame and guilt for what happened to me for years and years and years. I mean, like I said, even my parents couldn't understand. My parents raised me to be confident. They raised me to believe in myself, to think I'm pretty. My mom would tell me this is one of my favorite things. I one time told my mom, I said, well, I don't understand because I never had a boyfriend in high school. And, I always felt like, it was like, oh, woe to me. It's just like totally lovelorn. I may be too much of a romantic, but I just told her, I said, well, I feel like just the ugliest person on the planet. And you know what she said to me? This is how much I love my mom. I don't make ugly babies. That is literally what she said to me. I don't make ugly babies. So that's the kind of stuff that, my mom would say. And then I told her one time, I said, well, Dad doesn't understand how you fell in love with him because he doesn't find himself all that spectacular. Right. And I mean, my dad's a good looking guy, in my opinion. Well, it's my opinion because he's my dad. But she says, I don't marry ugly people. So, I mean, take it for what you will. My mom had her own way of saying, you need to have more confidence. But she did try to instill that into me. She did try to instill that kind of strength into me. But I couldn't see it until now. I didn't want to see it till now because I didn't think I deserved to see it till now because of that shame and that guilt. Okay, so if you have been through bad things in your life that you had no control over, it is not your fault. Okay? Remove the shame and guilt. Even if you feel like there were moments where you had control, you were the victim. Don't live in the victimhood. If you live in the victimhood, you're never going to learn how to be completely joyful. But acknowledge what happened to you. Give it the healing it needs. That doesn't mean you have to ignore it and say it didn't exist. What it means is you are taking your power back and becoming stronger than what tried to tear you down. And everybody has that in them. Everybody can do that. So, bad decision. I was talking about the abortion I had. I thought it was one of the worst decisions I made in my life, but this is what I wrote in response to that. Bad decision, no. The decisions we make in life may not always have been right, but they are not wrong either. We're not perfect. We will make mistakes, but we can learn from them and use them to help others if we choose, or we can be anchored by them. The decisions I've made in my life that I thought were bad decisions felt like the right ones for me at the time. But the emotional repercussions I suffered from them, or from that one, to be honest, that was the biggest bad decision I thought I ever made in my life. But I held myself responsible for so long, and I let it anchor me. Even after I knew I had forgiveness, even after I talked through it with my therapist, even after I talked through it with my siblings, I felt responsible because I didn't have the forgiveness I thought I needed. The forgiveness I truly needed was the forgiveness for myself. Me pulling me off the hook. Because that's where real forgiveness comes from. True forgiveness, when it comes to decisions you've made that people shame you for, or things that happen to you that people shame you for. In this particular case, I was ashamed and I felt guilty and I could not forgive myself, and I thought I had. But I think it was just to appease myself, right? It was that fight or flight, flee or fawn. I was fawning over myself. I was people pleasing myself just to kind of give myself a leg up and move forward. But I truly, truly feel I have that forgiveness now. I truly feel like I can forgive myself for that, and that it is time to move on from that. I can't change it, right? The decision has been made. I cannot take back what happened, but I can move forward from it, and I can allow myself to move forward. I give myself permission to move forward from it. Now, that might sound silly to some, but you know what? There are times that you're going to need to say, so-and-so or self, I give you permission to do this now, because you're going to be okay. And then the last thing I wrote, the thing about shadow work is that, in my experience, you never know when it will be coming at you once you've started it. It's like your brain and heart give you as much as you can handle, but a bit at a time. And for me, I rarely see that coming, because you don't see it coming. 1 minute you're journaling and the next minute you're spilling out your entire life story in tears and you're freaking out and you're crying because you don't know where all this stuff is coming from. These are your emotions. That's why I try to tell people, if you have the opportunity, start to journal, start to write things down. It doesn't have to be in a fancy journal. I'm using a freaking notebook right now, and y'all know how many journals I have in my life, right? I mean, look, the daily thing is in a journal. So, a Walgreens special from baby sibling because she loved that it did this, that it did all the fun stuff, and she knows I love journals, and it's soft and fluffy. I can rub it on my face. It feels so good. But, I know. But, that's my point, guys. That is my point. Sometimes you have to start the writing. You may not know where you're starting, but if you start being honest just in that day, maybe if you're having a bad day and you're feeling like crap, start writing it down. And you have no idea what might come out of your brain, but let it come out. If it starts to feel painful, take a break, okay? Call a friend or say, look, hey, you know what? Reach out to me. If you have the opportunity or the ability to reach out to me, I will help you. I will be there for you, because I know how hard it can be. I know how scary it can be. It's frightening. For me, it was. I don't know about other people, but it can be very frightening. It can cause anxiety. It can make you feel like you're overwhelmed. But if it's doing that, it probably means it's working. So try not to be afraid of it. I know that's easier said than done, but this is where you're going to find your strength. You are literally going to see that you have had this strength all this time. You are going to see what you are made of, because you are pushing through. You are making it through. Okay? So, let's let go of the shame. Let's let go of the guilt. Let's let go of the fear, the feeling overwhelmed. And let's embrace the self-love. Let's embrace that self-care. Because that's the most important part of the journey. Is learning that you are absolutely 100% worth every tear that you're shedding, every pain that you're feeling, every emotion that is crossing your path. You are worth that. Because even if it feels like a bad one, I mean, you are worth it in a good way. Because you are telling yourself, hey, I'm choosing to be better. And even if it's hard, and even if I may or may not get to that point where I'm completely healed, I'm choosing to know that I'm worth it, that I'm important. And, you know, that's what I want you to say to yourselves. I'm worth it. I am important. I do mean something. Because you do. No matter what your struggles are, whether you have a dinged up mental health or not, you are worth it. You are enough. You know, repeat that in the mirror every morning until you can feel it, that you mean it. I am enough. I am enough. Because the only person you really have to be enough for is you. And if you're enough for you, you're going to be enough for other people. And I truly, truly believe that. If you are enough for you, you are going to be enough for other people. And you are slowly going to find your self-love. And you know, maybe you're going to be one of those people who you find, okay, I am enough. And somebody sees that and they'll help you the rest of the way. They're going to see you too. And they're going to say, hey, maybe this person needs me. You know, and I think in a lot of ways, that's what my dad did for my mom. He made her know that she was enough. And, you know, like I said, they were married for a very, very long time. And I'm always proud of that. And I love to share that they were married, you know, I mean, they got married very young, like 19 and 21, and they were married for 47 years. You know, I mean, again, it took them a while to have me, but you know, hey, enjoy those first 6 years of your marriage. But when I saw them, maybe I put them on an unrealistic pedestal, but I look back and I think anything's possible. Anything's possible when you realize you're enough. And that's all I want for everybody. Okay. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful Thursday. Thank you for coming back, guys. I know I was gone for 2 days. I know it's unusual. Usually I'll take a day off and not more, but I had a lot of work, excuse me, I had a lot of work I needed to do, and I did it, and I'm very proud of myself, and I'm not going to be shy about that. I'm very, very proud of myself because it was a lot of work, and it took a lot of time because I kept resisting. So let go of control. Okay? I hope everybody has a great day. I will see you back here tomorrow. It's Aloha Oracle Friday, so it's Aloha Friday. And I'll do oracle pulls, okay? So it'll be fun. Hopefully I'll be, you know, a little bit more back to myself than I am, because that'll make it a little bit more of an interesting pull. But if you have stuff that you are wanting answered, that you feel like you need answered, put it out there. Hopefully your source, God, the universe, your angels, your guides, whatever, hopefully they'll deliver you the answer. And we'll go more over that tomorrow. But if there are things that you feel like you need to be answered, if the answer is meant for you to get, hopefully it will come through. Okay, so tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on Facebook Live. It is public, so anybody can watch. If you do not watch it, but you watch the Oracle on the replay, it's okay. Most people don't ask questions during it, so I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there. So even if it's on a replay, it still could be the answer that you need. All right. And again, I will see you tomorrow. Have a happy, happy Thursday. Make the best of today. Remind yourself every time you pass a mirror today, I am enough. Okay? Have a great day, and thank you so much for watching.